Good morning, dear students. Now we are in one of our important laboratory, that is popularly known as metrology laboratory. In this laboratory we are having 5 experiments which will be described and demonstrated by 2 of our sectional very senior professors. One is Professor Gautam Mujumdar and another professor is Professor Gautam Nandi. So, it will be discussed and demonstrated. So, please see all the steps by which the metrology lab is conducted in our curriculum. Thank you.
Good morning, my dear friends. As our section in charge Professor Subhash Paja has just mentioned that in this pandemic time there was no option but to conduct the virtual classes in this way only. So, we will try our level best to let you know whatever possible from our end about this particular laboratory called metrology laboratory, meant for third year mechanical engineering students. Now, before I go into the details of the laboratory, the experiment that we will be conducting, let me start with some brief introduction about the importance of this class. Metrology in general, it is a pure science of measurement, but the engineering metrology is the science which basically considers linear line and angles. Everything in terms of linear measurement and angular measurements will come under what is called engineering metrology. But as an engineering graduate, it is not enough that you just know how to take the measurements. You must know, I mean, in which function it actually comes. In any big enterprise, in any very big organization, there are 5 basic functions. Engineering organization, I should say. It will start with the processing of the components, the sub-assembly, then the assembly, then metal handling and storage, then you have inspection and testing, and then control. So, if you think of all these 5 major functions, you can extract one important function, what is called inspection and testing. Within this inspection and testing, this knowledge will be helpful for all of you when you will be joining in the industry. Now, this inspection and testing, these 2 terms are quite synonymous. What is the difference between this inspection and testing? Suppose one component is given to you and you are checking its quality characteristic against its design requirement, that should come under what is called inspection. And any product, if you check against its functional requirement, should come under what is called testing. So, testing and inspection should be differentiated in that way. Inspection is something you are trying to check, some quality characteristic you are trying to check against its design requirement, and testing means you are checking its attribute of a product against the functional requirement. Supposing, say, if you buy a car, you will see that on the screen it will be written as tested OK, it is not written as inspected OK. So, testing means something you are checking against functional requirement, inspection means something you are checking against design requirement. This is the basic difference you should know. Now, the thing is, what you are going to do here in this laboratory, you will see that some particular component will be given to you and you will be asked to find its dimension in different indirect methods. The question is, can it be called quality control, can it be called quality assurance, or can it be called total quality management? Because as an engineering graduate, you must know the differences, because this is apparently they are very synonymous, but you must know the difference, because in any interview it is possible that you will be grilled with this kind of synonymous questions. So, first let me tell something on this term, like suppose the job that will be given to you, you are not bothered about which company has made this component, you are just checking its quality characteristic. So, that should come under what is called quality control, right. Now, if you go little beyond, if you check the process which has delivered this component, that means you are talking about quality assurance. If you go further beyond, that should come what is called total quality management. How we will go further beyond? It means any product that you are making, assembling different components, ultimately it will reach to the customer. No company is a philanthropic organization. Any company is making the product, trying to grab the market, knowing very sure that they want to solidify their position in the market. If they cannot ensure the level production, they cannot ensure the stable employment, and there is chance of the hiring fire will be coming up. So, there is a long process. So, you can well guess that if customers are kept in mind, what is the customer choice, what they want, what special characteristic they want, not only the quality characteristic, some aesthetic appeal for they want, whether they want some ergonomical features. So, if you think of the customers, and again if you try to incorporate some characteristic into the product, that means you are oriented your thought towards the customer, that should come under what is called total quality management. So, in summary, please remember that if it is quality control, means you are talking about the product orientation. If it is quality assurance, means process orientation. If it is TQM, total quality management, this is customer orientation. In this particular laboratory, we will be doing something on not all this quality assurance, TQM, etc. We will be doing something on the quality control only. Now, in this particular metrology lab, as I given you the definition, in general metrology means pure science of measurement, but when it is engineering metrology means we are thinking about some measurement in terms of lines and angles. So, before you go to the exact experiment, I will be giving the definition of some important terms, and also another thing is very important, like why at all this measurement, inspection, all these things are required. So many synonymous terms you will come across, like you might have in your third year class, you might have studied about limits, space and tolerances, right. Now, supposing you take 2 liters bottle of the cold drinks, one is Coke and there is Pepsi. You change the cap of the 2 bottles, you will see they will fit. Okay, how it is possible? That means the philosophy, the concept is what is called interchangeable manufacturing. So, whenever you are trying to assemble something, the mating components you can select at random, that will come under the concept of interchangeable manufacturing. But it is not true for say ball bearings. When you are fitting the bearings with its races, it is not possible that you are just going for a random selection of the items, right. You have to go for the selective assembly of the different mating components. You have to by trial and error you have to go for the mating of different components. So, one is selective assembly, another is interchangeable manufacturing. So, to reach to this concept, it is essential that you must know the basics of metrology, and also there are some other synonymous terms are there, very important terms you will come across: limits, fits, tolerance, allowance, clearance. Especially these 3 terms: tolerance, clearance, allowance. When it is tolerance, suppose I make a dimension of say you are asked to go for turning a solid round shaft of say dimension 30 plus minus 1, it can be say millimeter. So, highest size can be 31 and lowest size can be 29. So, this difference is what is called tolerance, right. When it is tolerance means you are actually thinking of one single component. If you think of the mating components, then the question of fit, the clearance, the allowance will come. Mating components we usually call it shaft and hole, right. Supposing there is shaft and hole, so on shaft there will be 2 dimension, upper limit and lower limit, on the hole also there will be 2 dimension. Now, out of this you will see that you will be having 2 things, minimum clearance and maximum clearance. The minimum clearance is what is called allowance. So, these terms are very essential for you to know, and fit is nothing but, as you might have studied in your class, the relationship between 2 mating parts immediately before their assembly. So, before you go to this laboratory, metrology laboratory, the details, please get ready to know these words in detail. What is the meaning of limit, what is the meaning of interchangeable manufacturing, why at all we should know, we should learn about this metrology classes, etc. Now, let me start with our specific task here. As you see that metrology is derived from the Greek word metrologia, literally means science of measurement. Already I have mentioned. So, I will not read in between everything, all the lines. In practical application, it is the enforcement, verification, validation of a predefined standards. And measurement, it is the process of experimentally obtaining one or more numerical values that can reasonably be attributed to quantity or property. It provides information. See what metrology gives, it is very important, last line. It provides information about quality of lot, quality of the product, capability of manufacturing process, accuracy and precision of measuring process, etc. When you are checking something, it is not that you are just checking the product quality. Say one product is a part of the whole lot. So, if you can gauge the product quality, means also you are checking the quality of a lot. So, this will give you the idea of whether the process that is delivering the product is having proper capability or not. So, manufacturing process capability. Also, it will give you some idea about the accuracy and precision of the measuring instrument. The measuring process that you are being applied, whether this is accurate, whether the process, whether it is accurate, whether the product is accurate. So, all this information you can have from the subject of metrology. Accuracy and precision. So, accuracy is the degree of agreement of the measured dimension with its true magnitude. Okay. The maximum amount by which the results differs from the true value. True value means supposing there is a mean and if you take the measurement, suppose you make say 30 plus minus 1, 2000 items and I am going for, say I am going for 10 draw, and each draw having 10 items. So, that means 10 draw 10 item means actually measuring 100 items, we are having the idea of the 2000 items. So, for every draw you can have a mean. Now, if you go on plotting the mean, whether that mean and the set mean they are similar, whether they are right measured dimension, whether it is true magnitude they are similar or not. So, how much it, so accuracy means it is nearness to the true value that will be given by accuracy. And precision means degree of repeatability, okay, degree of repetitiveness of the measuring process or the repeatability of the measuring process. Every time you measure, how much close it is towards the accurate value. So, that is called the precision. So, in one word, accuracy means nearness to the true value and accurate precision means the repeatability of the measuring process. So, this is when precise but not accurate. Why? If you see the spread, right, they are very close, the measurement. See why this curve is, as you know, the normal distribution curve. As how you can get this dimension? How you can get this dimension? As I give you the example, say 30 plus minus 1, one supplier has given you 2000 items and we are going for 10 draw. Each draw is having 10 components. So, 10 multiplied by 10, 100 items. Okay? So, by measuring 100 items, we will be deciding the fate of 2000 items. It is seen that in all cases, the shape will be something like normal distribution curve. Why this normal distribution curve? Please remember this normal, see engineering items, almost all engineering items will show this kind of tendency, the normal distribution curve. Okay? Why? Because any manufacturing, if you think of, two variations are important. Any manufacturing has got two important variations. One variation is called assignable variation, right? Another variation is called random variation. Assignable variation means, for example, in your third year workshop class, supposing when you are turning a solid round bar holding in between two centers, by mistake you did not check the alignment of the center line of the life center of the dead center. It is laterally shifted, okay, by chance. So, that is going to generate the tapered job. So, immediately after certain round of cut you discover that my job is getting tapered. So, you make it collinear, that means you could take the rectification action, you made it linear again, collinear again. That means you could identify the reason of the variation. So, this kind of variation is what is called assignable variation. Any manufacturing has got two variations, do remember, assignable variation and random variation. Then what is random variation? Random variation means supposing we two colleagues are equally qualified, we have been given similar jobs, similar dimension job, similar processing machine, similar measuring instrument, but the jobs become, my job is inferior to other person's job. Why it is true? Because see, raw material is say casting, but my casting is having some inherent inaccuracy maybe which I could not detect, right. Another, what can be the other reasons? Say lathe, two lathe were given, my lathe is having some inherent inaccuracy, I could not get rid of that. Measuring instrument that is being used may have some inherent inaccuracy that we could not get rid of. So, this kind of inherent inaccuracies is going to generate what is called random variation, and there is no escape. Some random variation will be there in any type of manufacturing. Because of that, so whenever you are supposing if you draw the 10 means out of the 2000 item, 10 draw, each draw having 10 items. So, 10 mean point if you draw, you will see not that one particular mean it will come, you will see it will be spread. Why spread? Because of this random variation. Now, out of this, that is the story why you get this shape. You see, this is the true mean, right. Here the spread is not that high, here the mean of this measurement and the true value is slightly, the shifted. So, this is, that's why it is mentioned precise but not accurate. Here you see B, number B, accurate but not precise. What mean? Means the measured mean and the true mean, they are coinciding, but the measured means are quite spread, having large spread, right, they are having large spreads. Here number C you see, not only the measured mean and the true mean they are coinciding, but also the spread is very close to large mean. So, that is the indication of both precision and accuracy. And this is neither precision nor accurate, that means measured mean and true mean are different, also it is having large spread. So, by this figure you can understand what is the difference between precision and accuracy. This I am not going by the line by line. So, if you see that error means difference between the indicated value and the true value of the quantity measured, that is the error. So, that will be there, all these slides will be given to you. Sensitivity means whether the slight change in dimension that you are measuring can be detected by the instrument, that is called sensitivity. And range is defined as the difference between the lower and the higher values of an instrument which it is able to measure. So, to what extent it can measure, that is high value, low value, that is this range, up to what extent the instrument can be used, that should be called range. Now, different measuring instruments are actually used in any metrology laboratory. The whole gamut of instruments it is not possible to show, just a very basic instrument that you are going to come across with in this laboratory. We have tried to display it here virtually. So, first thing is the micrometer, okay. Different varieties of micrometer are there, outside, inside micrometer, direct micrometer, electron digital micrometer, etc. Now, any micrometer, if you see, very common standard is this is the outside micrometer. In this particular micrometer, there are some important mechanisms. One is this is called, this is the anvil, this is a fixed one, the moving spindle, this is the barrel, or it is also sometimes called sleeve, this is the thimble, this is the ratchet. Three basic mechanisms, one is your locking mechanism will be here, screw nut mechanism will be here. Okay, so, this is the instrument that you see here, right. So, this is your locking mechanism is here, this is the sleeve or barrel, this is the thimble, this is the ratchet. Okay, this is your fixed anvil and moving spindle. So, as you go on rotating, it can either come forward or till it will go away depending on the direction of rotation. Now, see, there will be some values will be written over here, that is called least count. Least count means the least value that this instrument can measure. That is called least count. As the name implies, least count. Now, here different types of instruments are here. Okay. Now, this particular micrometer is actually vernier type of micrometer. Vernier type of micrometer, why? If you see the here it is, the least count will be 0.001 or something like 0.001, right, 0.001. So depending on to what extent of precision you want, it is decimal, I mean 2 decimal places if you want to have the precision, then you can use the micrometer without vernier. If you want to use the precision the 3 decimal places, up to 3 decimal places, then you have to go for the vernier type of micrometer. Very simple way to remember, say there are say 50 division. There are say 50 division on the circular scale and 0.5 millimeter is the pitch, 0.5 millimeter is the pitch say. Pitch means one rotation, supposing it is single stud thread, by one rotation it is moving over the linear scale by 0.5 millimeter. So, 0.5 divided by 50 is what is called the least count. Now, since it is a vernier, so again you have to divide that value by 10, giving this dimension of least count. Okay. So, this is very important. So, similarly this thing has been shown here. So, please remember the 3 important mechanisms: locking mechanism, that is locking mechanism will be here, then screw nut mechanism, and there is a ratchet mechanism. By ratchet mechanism means it will ensure uniform pressure. So, different varieties of micrometers are available. Now, supposing here this, for example, this one is given the range of say 0 to 25 millimeter. Now, question is how to check the zero error. What you have to do, you have to ensure that you go on rotating it. If the moving spindle touches the anvil, in that position, if the 0 of the circular scale matches with the 0 of the index line, that should be called that it is having no zero error. And what are the type of zero error, that will be discussed here again. This is the another important tool, that is the vernier. We have shown it is also here, the vernier. You see, this is for measuring the inside dimension, the top one. This is for measuring outside dimension, and this is for sometimes if you see this extension, you can measure the depth even. Now, how you can take the dimension over here? You have to take, first you take the main scale reading. Main scale reading, how we will take? Main scale reading you have to take first on the main scale, then the dimension which is coinciding, the vernier scale and main scale coinciding into the vernier constant. And what is vernier constant? Vernier constant can be defined as the difference between one main scale division and one vernier scale division. So, please remember all these things. So, even when we be using that based on this vernier principle, there are so many types of vernier measuring tools are over here. Show it here: vernier height gauges, vernier depth gauges. So, on the vernier principle, so many types of instruments are available. Okay. So, vernier measuring tools, vernier height gauge, vernier depth gauge. So, next is gauges. Gauges means broadly, gauges means using the gauge you can decide whether to accept the job or to reject the job. This is called gauges, that is mentioned to facilitate rapid checking of large number of individual parts. Gauges are used. Gauges simply shows whether the pieces is made within the specific tolerance. That is why we already mentioned that tolerance, allowance, clearance, this is you have to remember. Tolerance is the difference between the upper limit of a given dimension minus the lower limit, that is called tolerance. Okay. So, different type of gauges are there. Using gauges immediately you can decide whether to accept the job or to reject the job. You may not have the full dimension. This is which one? Thread gauges. These are thread gauges, right? These are thread gauges. These are thread gauges. Then next come the comparators. Comparators in your experiment in this particular laboratory will be using actually only one type of comparator, that is called mechanical comparator. Okay. Now, what is the basic difference between the gauge and comparator? Gauge is just helping you to whether to accept or to reject the job. Comparator will actually compare between the actual dimension, say actual machine dimension, and what is the standard dimension. So, comparator will compare that. Supposing say you have machined a say 2-inch cube. So, against this 2-inch cube, you compare this 2-inch cube with a piled up slip gauges of same dimension 2 inch. So, piled up slip gauges height 2 inch being compared with the actual job that is being machined, the 2-inch cube by say shaping operation. So, comparator will compare between what have been machined and what is the actual standard value that will compare. Now, the thing is that this comparison, that is the machined value and the standard value, they are so close sometimes, then actually to identify it, that the difference should be magnified. Depending on how you magnify, if the magnification is done mechanically, it is called mechanical comparator. If magnification is done electrically, it is called electrical comparator. If magnification is done pneumatically, it is called pneumatic comparator. So, that is the basic difference. So, gauge and comparator, gauge is just helping you to go for whether to accept or reject. Comparator is helping how to compare the machined job with a standard dimension, but this difference being very small, the difference has to be magnified depending on how you magnify. If you magnify by mechanical means, that should be called mechanical comparator. If you magnify by electrical means, it is called electrical comparator. If you magnify by pneumatic means, it should be called pneumatic comparators. Now, come to your specific tasks that are usually conducted in this laboratory. If it was the physical class, then probably every day one experiment, probably we used to carry out one experiment per day, but since an unusual situation of pandemic, so we are forced to go by in short the brief summary theoretically of all the 5 experiments that are likely to be carried out, that were to be carried out over here, but due to this situation we cannot do it here physically. So, first we will try to explain the methods in brief, then actual measurement will be shown also in this virtual class. First one is, see the experiment title, study and calibration of outside micrometer, introduction to other micrometers, measurement of insert taper by vernier height gauge and micrometer depth gauges and balls, measurement of internal radius by slip gauges, vernier caliper and roller, measurement of angle of taper plug gauge by sine principle, and determination of end diameters and the measurement of elements of spur gear. This is the first experiment. So, outside micrometer already was shown to you, basically to study the constructional and operational features of a given micrometer, outside micrometer, and to get according to the different types of micrometers, to check the accuracy of the given micrometer and calibrate. Calibration means actually what you are going to do, supposing say this is the micrometer, this is the outside micrometer. Okay. So, if you put some dimension over here, if you put some dimension, how to measure this dimension? You have to measure the dimension in that way. You have to take the MS reading plus CS reading into LC, that is main scale reading plus circular scale reading into least count. Now, so you put some dimension over here, check the reading, calculate the reading based on the reading available on the main scale and the circular scale, you calculate, and then you take the standard value that you put here. Supposing you have put a slip gauge of say, few millimeter you have put, say 5 millimeter. 5 millimeter is the standard dimension. Actually, you see what by measurement what we get. That is what is called calibration. Actually, you are checking the measuring instrument capability because it is possible by regular use some inside wear and tear is possible. So, that is why sometimes you have to check the measuring instrument itself, that is what is called calibration. You have to check against some standard. The standard that we use for the calibration is what is called line standard. Sorry, that is called the N standard, not the line standard, very sorry. That is called N standard. N standard means slip gauge is the N standard. Line standard means you are measuring the dimension in between the two engraved lines. If it is a steel rule, the wooden rule, that is called the line standard. But the slip gauges, even this one also called the N standard. So, you have to calibrate it against some N standard of slip gauges. So, this is being shown. There is a box of slip gauges will be given to you. It is usually given, and you pick up some values over here and put that value in this space. Note it what standard slip gauge you have taken, and then against it what is the actual reading that you get from main scale reading plus circular scale reading into least count. So, you have to take as such 10 readings against 10 slip gauges and just see how it differs. So, that was the purpose actually. So, this is a set of micrometers, different types, and this is the box of slip gauges. So, for the calibration what you have to do? So, this kind of table usually are applied in instruction sheet also will be shown later on to you. So, observation, how many, whatever observation you take, micrometer reading, and then there is the slip gauge reading. Slip gauge reading means the value that you are putting inside, and micrometer reading how we will take, the main scale reading, MS reading plus CS reading into least count. So, that way you have to fill up this second column and put this value, the slip gauge in the third column, and then in the fourth one you have to find out the difference and you plot a graph. This is the major objective of the first experiment. So, calibration means truly you are checking the capability of the measuring instrument itself. So, that already I have mentioned to you, and that already shown. Again it is mentioned anvil, spindle, lock nut, sleeve, knurled grip and ratchet. Micrometer with the vernier, you see this is the vernier, because you see the least count here is 0.001. How do you get it 0.001? Let me repeat. Supposing the pitch is 0.5 millimeter and there are 50 division on the circular scale, 0.5 divided by 50, and then again you divide that value by 10 because it is further divided on the vernier. So, since the vernier type micrometer, so you get the value up to 3 decimal places correct. So, these are some precaution has been mentioned which is self-explanatory that you can well understand. So, yeah, the micrometer vernier that I have shown to you, that means if you further want to have some more accuracy, you have to go for this kind of vernier, micrometer with a vernier in this instrument. Then zero error, if you see the zero error over here, this zero on the circular scale coincident with the zero on the index line, that is on the sleeve or the barrel, that is no zero error. If it is on the upper side, this index line and your lower is your zero on the circular scale, there is a positive zero error, negative zero error. Here see your circular scale zero is going up, then the zero of the index line is called a negative zero error. This procedure already I have mentioned to you, that means you have to put some slip gauges in between this anvil and the spindle, and finally using the ratchet you have to make sure that you can exert uniform pressure. So, in this way about 10 dimension you should take during the experiment. So, if you see the last line, take either a 25 to 50 millimeter micrometer or a 0 to 25 millimeter micrometer and calibrate it. Now, here it is 0 to 25 millimeter. Now, one very important question comes, like if it is say 25 to 50 millimeter micrometer, the range is, lower range is 25 millimeter can measure and highest is 50 millimeter can measure. So, obvious question comes then how to check the zero error, because if it is 0 to 25 fine, then when we are rotating the spindle, it will touch on the anvil, there is no gap in that case. But if it is a 25 to 50 millimeter micrometer, in that case zero error you have to measure inserting a slip gauge of dimension 25 millimeter in between anvil and the moving spindle. Please remember this one. So, how to find the zero error for this? So, some precaution which is self-explanatory. Next you go to your experiment 2, that is some taper measurement will be some taper. What is the taper gauge? That is the gauge. So, this is the inside taper. This taper will be measured. Taper measurement will be carried out. Okay. Okay. This is the basic theory is given. How to find this taper angle? Okay, sin theta by 2. If you just draw this small one theta by 2 value. Yes, okay. This simple calculation is given. R minus R2 by 2. See the center to center distance between the two balls that will be incorporated. Okay, and this is dimension by simple geometry. You will get it. But one dimension you have to please rectify over here, that you see your H2 it is okay, but H3 line is a bit error. So, this please remember that H3 will be over the top of the upper ball. So, this line you have to rectify. H2 is up to the top of this taper ring gauge, that is fine. So, H1, H2 and H3. Now, when you find out this H1 dimension is very important. H1 dimension is very important. You have to insert a ball in such a way that you just allow the ball to gradually roll inside. Do not allow the gravity to fall inside it. In that case, you can have some erroneous result. After you have inserted the ball, it is very important to know the use of another very important micrometer called depth micrometer. You have to put the depth micrometer over here. So, depth micrometer has got some speciality unlike the outside micrometer that we have shown to you. Depth micrometer, whatever dimension you get, suppose in the Viva we ask you to find some dimension using this depth micrometer. So, when you get the final dimension, do not forget to add the standard dimension of the extension part plus minus scale reading plus circular scale reading into least count. But very important thing is there over here. If you see here, I do not know whether you see it here. I do not know whether you see it here. There is the index line on the main scale. Okay. I do not know whether, can you zoom it please? If you zoom it, if you see that there is the index line. On the index line, the upper portion is, say there each division is 1 millimeter, and beneath this line the division is 0.5 millimeter. And this is very important that you have to take care. And then another important thing is that here the graduation is the reverse order, graduation is in the decreasing order. Okay. Why? Because if you go much down means the depth increases, but if you go gradually go rightward, that means depth decreases, therefore, the dimension will be less. And whenever you take the dimension, it is very essential, important to understand that when you take something, supposing I see here it is said 10, supposing I see 10 means actually it has crossed 9.5. So, the main scale reading will not be 10, but you have to take the dimension which you just do not see, that means which it has just crossed. So, if you see it 10, actually you have to take the main scale reading as 9.5, then you take the circular scale reading into least count, and then you add the extension dimension to reach to the final value of the dimension. So, this thing you have to remember, that unlike the outside micrometer, depth micrometer graduation in the reverse direction, extension rod dimension has to be measured, and also beneath this line another 0.5 graduations are there beneath the index line, that also to be considered. So, using this, so first one is this H1 dimension. You have to, for H1 dimension you have to set the ball and then you have to use the micrometer. Then H2 you have to use this vernier height gauge, and then H3 dimension also you have to use the vernier height gauge. H3, please rectify this, H3 line is similar to H2 line, but actually it is not true. H3 line should be marked on the top of the upper ball. Okay. And if you see this vernier height gauge, see one is flat, another is having sharp end. Sharp end, sometimes it is essential that we need to go for scribing at some height during say marking operation, then in that case your this edge will be beneficial for the measurement. Now, with this simple calculation, one uses to the dimension. The instrument that we use the surface plate, as you see here, surface plate is a surface plate. Surface is the standard datum surface. Steel ball will be there 2 in numbers, and that micrometer depth gauge is very important. This is using instrument and vernier height gauge. So, using this you have to, but initially also you have to find out the diameter of this ball using this what is called the vernier caliper. So, already I have mentioned the procedure, it is everything mentioned. First one is set this thing, then allow the small ball to go inside, take the measurement H1, then take the measurement of H2, then again place the ball, bigger ball on the top, then the measurement of H3. Using this expression you can find out the theta by 2 value. This observation standard table is there, then you go on filling up the way that has been given in the table, one by one you have to put this value. Precautions as quasi spectroscopy, I am not explaining this, only one precaution is that do not allow the ball to fall on inside in this way by gravity, allow the ball to roll gradually inside. Next is your third experiment. Third experiment is basically to find out the internal radius of a given job. What is the job? Third experiment job, just so that you take it away. Okay. So, this is the radius of this job we need to find out the radius of this job. Now, see one particular method you will be using, fine, but do remember that it is not the only method that you can adopt for finding the radius. So, what I have tried to do here to mention about the other methods also, that in case you are asked to in any exam or in interview, you may be asked what are the different methods of radius measurement. So, please remember that this is the way that how you can find the radius. So, if you see what is the name here, measurement of internal radius by slip gauges, slip gauge box will be here, the slip gauge box, and the measurement will be shown later on. Then vernier caliper, there is a vernier caliper. Why vernier caliper? Vernier caliper is to find out the dimension of this roller. And roller dimension, when you are asked to find out the roller dimension, it is not enough that you are just finding the roller dimension in one place, at least in 2-3 places you have to take, because during machining of the roller some error may have crept into it. So, make sure that it is uniformly distributed. So, using 2 similar sets of rollers will be carrying out the experiment, but obviously you should get the same value of the radius even if the roller radius is different. So, if you see this, slip gauges will be here, slip gauges, roller and the vernier caliper. This is, so if you draw it, basically this is a Pythagoras. So, instruction sheet will be given to you, you will see that basically the 3 dimension you take the Pythagoras, you basically applied, Pythagoras theorem has been applied, r minus r, capital is the radius that you are trying to find out, smaller is the radius of the roller that you are using, s by 2, s is the reading of the slip gauges inside this roller whenever the 2 slip rollers will be placed. What is the slip gauge reading that will be given by s, h is the height, okay. There is some mark is there till the surface plate that will be found out by the vernier caliper. So, but basically it is nothing but from the given drawing you will see nothing but an application of Pythagoras theorem. Figure has gone now, not see. Now, as I have mentioned that this formula that will be used actually in your class, but if we are asked to tell what are the other methods of finding the radius measurement, finding the radius, then so many other methods are available. So, I have tried to explain to you, you can in any standard book you get the details even. One is by using depth micrometer, Or if this is a depth micrometer, if the depth, supposing this is a one concave surface is over here, if you take this as a radius, okay, supposing this is a line you draw, radius line is here, take say this is m by 2, see the m by 2, come up to the center line m by 2 and this supposing it is r minus h means a dimension will be given from this depth micrometer instrument. So, if this is your r, there is hypotenuse, this is your r minus h and this is m by 2, again the Pythagoras has been applied. So, in this way you can find out the radius by using the depth micrometers. Okay. This is another method, but actually we will be not using this method, other way of doing this. Fixed roller method, fixed roller instrument is also another method of finding the radius. Supposing this is a big convex surface, so put your fixed roller instrument over here and then again if you check this triangle ABC, so in ABC actually the Pythagoras have been applied. If you just check it, nothing is there. So, in the triangle ABC, Pythagoras have been. So, this is your R and this is d by 2. Why it is d by 2 means the roller dimension by 2, this value is c by 2 whole square plus this is R plus A. R plus A, small dimension is your A. Okay. So, again this is Pythagoras, another method. So, another is earlier word using depth micrometer, this one is using fixed roller instrument. Another method is there, see that is also very interesting. Suppose you have got a very small job, convex type of small job, then how you can find out the the radius. Adopting the principle of trigonometry, you can find out the radius of the given job and you place your V plate over here, the small job convex type, and you find out the relationship. Supposing this is your total angle is theta, you take this angle say ABC is theta by 2. So, cosec theta by 2 has been written here R plus H, okay, R plus H by R. So, using simple trigonometric relationship you can find out the R value. So, V plate instrument, fixed roller instrument, depth micrometer. So, these are different options that available, that though we are not using all the types over here. Another very interesting method is also available, that you can even go for the dynamical method of finding the radius measurement. So, there what is, supposing it is a concave surface a bit larger, allow a that this this roller is coming down gradually. So, if you apply the knowledge of your engineering mechanics, if you see that the restoring force is your P, because mg is this one, so this is theta, also this is the theta, mg sin theta, this is the mg cos theta, mg sin theta is the P force. Now, if you apply this P equal to mf for the linear motion and also it is having some rotational motion, okay, that is why it is I alpha by R. So, from this what you can find out here, that supposing this f is 2g theta by g. So, since f is proportional to theta, acceleration proportional to theta means that it is executing simple harmonic motion. Okay, so, knowing that this the motion is simple harmonic, so you can go for its time period, okay, time period expression. So, you apply this formula time period, expand it and then you find out the radius. So, please remember that again this is another method of radius measurement. So, that depends on the given job. Supposing the job is a bit larger, concave type of shape, allow a roller to roll on it, to oscillate on it, and it is shown, it is proved that acceleration proportional to theta, meaning that it is executing simple harmonic motion and adopting the time period, time of one oscillation, you can find out the radius indirectly. If all these methods fail, then you have to go for this coordinate method. So, coordinate method means, so supposing if you know some dimension has been given, if you know the 3 values, okay, so you put x1 y1, x2 y2, x3 y3, and if you know these 3 unknown GFC, if GFC unknown, then you can calculate the radius. So, how you have reached to this dimension, this expression also has been mentioned in the next slide, though it is known from your knowledge of your coordinate geometry. So, it just has been given for your information. So, this is different way of measuring instrument. So, this is in short about this. So, this is the thing that you actually are trying to carry out in the laboratory. This is the job, put the slip gauge. These 2 rollers must be of same size. 2 sets of rollers have to be used, one larger, one is smaller, but ultimate dimension will be same. And now if you see this one, take a line over here, draw a line. So this hypotenuse equal to root over of this dimension square plus this dimension square. That is given in the very first page. How you can apply the Pythagoras. This is the standard table. So now already you have discussed about the 3 experiments. Now it is experiment number 4. So one taper plug gauge, your experiment 2 if you recall, so taper plug gauge, taper ring gauge was given to you. Now it is taper plug gauge, this is the taper plug gauge, this is the taper plug gauge, this is the taper plug gauge that we use, taper plug gauge. So by sign principle, you have to find out the angle as well as the end diameter. So in this exact, the calculation will be available in the instruction sheet. This is a standard sine bar, but do remember that we are not using sine bar over here, we will be using the sine table that will be shown during the experiment. The sine table, why sine table is important? Because sine bar, if you allow the job over here, it is possible that job will come down by rolling. So you have to ensure that it cannot come down, so some projections are there along the periphery. So there is, if you think of the sine bar has got some variants. It has got sine vice, it has got sine center, it has got sine table. So actually in this experiment sine table will be used. The sine table, in the sine table, the unique thing is that the 2 rollers are of different size and 1 roller is hinged. So you have to place your job and then you have to go for the measurement. And this is the dial indicator you have to use to make this top surface parallel. That will be shown when the experiment will be carried out. And this dial indicator, do remember, the dial indicator is an example of this dial gauge, also we call it dial gauge, but dial gauge or dial indicator is an example of mechanical comparator. Okay. There is a sign principle, as you know, that these 2 dimensions will be, while you take the experiment, you will see that there is a AB is nothing but the line joining the 2 centers, and BC height will be available using the slip gauges. The procedure will be shown, the detailed procedure will be shown during experiment. Okay. Also how to find out the diameters, end diameter will be shown during the experiment, and what are some standard expressions are there. Okay, one big calculations are there, also be included in the instruction sheet. Now this is the last one. Now this gear, as a mechanical engineer, most important element, the gears. It is basically power transmission element. Gears are mounted over the shaft and shaft is used for transmitting power from one point to the other. Okay. Now one gear will be given to you. I think from your theoretical knowledge you know what are the different types of gears. Now one spar gear will be given to you here. This is a spar gear. This is a spar gear. Okay. This is a spar gear will be given to you. Now, okay. And first you have to find out the module of the gear. Module is nothing but the PCD in millimeter by number of teeth. Okay. If you know the outside diameter, then indirectly you can find out the module of the gear. So from that OD you will see that M into T plus 2. There will be, I think that is the theory is there inside. The particular micrometer that will be used is called what is called base tangent micrometer. Base tangent micrometer will ensure that you get a tangent over the, you can get a tangent over the base circle. Now if you draw this line, focus in here, you please focus it here. So this is the base tangent. You see the 2 involute are being generated. So it is from the very definition of the involute. You know the definition of the involute, how the definition, I mean from the involute it is seen that whatever this dimension over this periphery is nothing but the straight dimension of the tangent between the tangent over the base cycle. So, base tangent micrometer will ensure that the measured dimension will be the tangent on the base cycle. And see how it is being carried out. Base pitch, you have to take some measurement. See, one is your measurement over x number of teeth A, is a measurement over x plus y number of teeth, and then you have to take the base pitch is nothing but the difference in reading by the number of teeth. Okay. And then the base pitch is, this is nothing but y, same line these two, and circumference you can find out, multiply with the number of teeth. Then again base cycle diameter you can calculate, base cycle diameter pi d. So, pi d is nothing but T into Pb, from that you can get the base cycle diameter. Then pressure angle is very important, you should remember. Then how to remember pressure angle, you know, the different book has given different definition, but you can please check the pressure angle can be remembered as you know, the angle between the commutator tangent to the P cycle of the two mating gears and commutator to the base cycle. Okay, or commutator to the base cycle is also called the common normal. So, pressure angle is nothing but the angle between the commutator to the P cycle of the two mating gears and the common normal, or the line of action, or also it is nothing but the common tangent to the base cycle. So, by geometry it can be shown that cos phi, cos psi, that is a pressure angle, is nothing but the base cycle diameter by the P cycle diameter. So, we get this relationship. Then arc to thickness on the base cycle you can find out A minus S. Supposing you take the measurement, and then if you, this minus means you are actually subtracting the space portion. If you when you are measuring, say in between say 3 teeth you are measuring, in between 3 teeth you measure how to, in 3 teeth how many space will be there? 2 space will be there. So, whatever you take the dimension, supposing it is x number of teeth, so you will see the space will be x minus 1. So, that is why this, I mean, terms is referring that the space dimension has to be subtracted to get the solid tooth thickness. So, this is the arc tooth thickness you can calculate. Once you know the tooth thickness, then you can also find out the angle subtended by this arc at the gear center, because as you know that S equal to R into theta. So, theta is nothing but your S by R. This is the involute function, involute psi. Involute function is another important term. Involute psi, the definition is here. Involute psi is the angle between the radii intersecting a flank of the tooth at the P cycle and the base cycle. So, involute psi, this relationship is very important. Involute psi equal to tan psi minus psi. Also reduction has been given, also it is available in the standard book. So, you can calculate the beta value here. How beta value is if total is alpha minus 2, the two sides to involute psi, you just subtract, put it over here, then you find out the LB value, okay, over here in the expression in terms of this one. Then it is a, you know, it is a proof that it is for your self reading, that how to find out this relationship between involute phi and the pressure angle. So, involute, so do not confuse, in some portion it by mistake it has been psi and phi, okay, do not confuse. So, in portion it is psi, it is phi, so phi psi they are same. So, do not confuse the phi or psi, it is meaning actually the pressure angle. When as I mentioned already, if the two gears are in action, this is the phi value or the psi value in some terms. So, phi is nothing but the pressure angle. This line is the commutator to the P cycle and commutator to the base cycle is this line. This is again one important information, so that you can understand how to use the vernier gear tooth vernier caliper. Okay, gear tooth vernier caliper. I mean, at what height you fit your gear tooth, and then you take the thickness at this particular height. So, how to find this M and H value? There is simple deduction is here. M equal to 2AB. Okay, 2 into AB is AB. This is AB, and twice of this is 2AB. If you know this sin theta value, put it over here. Just follow one by one. AB equal to AO sin theta, and theta is sin theta is AO is nothing but MT by 2. Why? Because MT is nothing but your PCD. MT is nothing but P cycle diameter. So, MCD MT by 2 is nothing but P circle radius, and theta is 1/4 of the 360 by T. If you take the total rotation 360 by number of teeth, 1/4 of that is actually theta. So, using that you get AB value, then M is nothing but MT sin 90 by T. So, M is the width, and H means where you will fit your gear tooth vernier caliper. Okay. So, at this dimension you first you fixed your height over here and then you take the dimension of this width. So, this H and M, please remember, in a different exam also it is very important, you may come across with this question on the final expression of H and M value. Height means at what height you fit your gear tooth vernier caliper, and at that height what is the gear tooth thickness. So, in everything in terms of module of the gear and number of teeth. So, H expression is here and capital M expression is here. So, this is the, as I mentioned you, gear tooth vernier caliper. This has been very interesting. So, it is measure in tooth thickness of a specific position on the tooth. Fix that position means that the H value measurement has to be taken, and vernier caliper for taking the measurement M. So, vernier caliper will take the measurement M. So, gear tooth vernier caliper is actually, with this you can have the total depth, at what height you will take the width. You can first to fix that position and you take the measurement M. This M should be capital M, okay. This should be capital M, not small m. Do not confuse, this M should be the width of the thickness, not small m, that is not the module, capital M should be. So, excuse some typos over here. So, this is again the theoretical calculation, the base tangent micrometer, the basic principle. AC is the tangent to the base circle. Tangent to the base circle means AC equal to A1, C1, A0, so it means arc A0, B0. Actually, based on this principle only, whatever dimension you take using the base tangent micrometer, it will come over the base circle with this line only. Okay. So, similar thing has been discussed already, how to find this pitch, the thickness, only thing is repeated only for your better understanding. Same thing has been discussed, it is a bit details only, earlier ones. So, it is a summary again of the different dimension. Procedure, this procedure will be shown to you again. Invalid precautions you have to take. Observation, that is the x and y, 3 plus 3 teeth over 3 teeth will take some dimension, again on 4 teeth will take some dimension, and go on taking the difference reading. So, this is in short about the theoretical part on the things that you would like to carry out over here. The practical portion will be shown by Professor Gautam Nandi and our Mr. Arun Nashkar. Thank you so much.